Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today I'm doing a Fluffal Frightfur deck profile. So I'm really excited for this one because we actually got some new support with Dangerous Frightfur Nightmare, which is a really good new Frightfur monster. This card is insanely good in this deck, and we're going to get into that card just a little bit later. But before we get into this, guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell on there so you can become part of the notification squad. Definitely check out the Patreon and the Ko-Fi down in the description below for all the really cool rewards, and let's get started on this. So you guys have never played this deck before. It's basically an OTK based deck that starts really cute and then gets really mean. Basically, like, if you guys don't know what this deck does, and this card is absolutely crazy good. So, first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Fluffal Dog. So, Fluffal Dog is pretty much the searcher of the deck. When it's normal or special summon from your hand, you can add an Edgemp Sabers or another Fluffal monster from your deck to your hand, except another copy of itself, and you can only use its effect of Fluffal Dog once per turn. Then we play 2 copies of Fluffal Penguin. This card's a pretty good card. I don't feel like you need any more than 2 of it in the deck, though, because during your main phase, you can special summon enough Fluffal from your hand, except another copy of Fluffal Penguin, and this effect can only be used once while this card's face on the field, and if this card is sent to the graveyard as a fusion material for a fusion summon of a Frightfur fusion monster, you can draw 2 cards and then discard a card, which is pretty good as well. Then we play 3 copies of Fluffal Bear. Fluffal Bear lets you send it from your hand to the graveyard to set a toy vendor directly from your deck to your side of the field, and you contribute it from your side of the field to target a polymerization in your graveyard and add it back to your hand. This card really helps out with the consistency because Toy Vendor is a really good card that helps us with a lot of consistency issues in the deck. So then we play 3 copies of Fluffal Wing. Fluffal Wing is a 3 to me. Some people just play it at 2, but I feel like 3 is the optimal number of Fluffal Wing because Fluffal Wing is just that good of a card to me. Basically what this card does is if this card is in your graveyard and you control a Toy Vendor, you can banish it from your graveyard to target a Fluffal monster in your graveyard, banish it if you do draw a card, and then send a Toy Vendor you control to the graveyard. And if you do, you get to draw a card. So basically you get to draw 2 by banishing a Fluffal and this card from your graveyard and sending a Toy Vendor to the graveyard. And then the Toy Vendor, actually, when it's sent to the graveyard, it actually has the ability that you get to add an Edgemp Saber or a Fluffal monster from your deck to your hand. So you get 2 draws and you get to add something from your deck to your hand, which is really good. Then we play a single copy of Fluffal Owl. Fluffal Owl is just a 1-of in here because when it's normal or special summoned from your hand, you can add a polymerization from your deck to your hand, and you can pay 500 life points to fusion summon a Frightfur fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion materials. We play a single copy of Sheep, which lets us bounce our dog back to our hand. And when you can bounce any Fluffal monster from your side of the field, especially summon this card to our side of the field, but I usually bounce the dog so I can recycle it again. And it also has the ability that you can return one of their Fluffal monsters you control in your hand to special summon a Edgemp monster from your hand or graveyard, which is really cool. I love that ability. And then we play a single copy of Fluffal Cat. Fluffal Cat, if it's used for a fusion material, you get to target 1 polymerization in your graveyard and add it back to your hand. I play 3 copies of Edgemp Chain. Edgemp Chain is the best Edgemp in the entire deck. It's just really good. And it recurs. When it declares an attack, you can add an Edgemp Chain from your deck to your hand, and if it's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can add a Frightfur card from your deck to your hand. We play a single copy of the Edgemp Sabers. Edgemp Sabers just recurs itself, so we only need it to 1-of. If it's in your graveyard, you can place a card from your hand on top of your deck. Special summon this card in defense position, you can only use its effect once per turn. So once you get it in the graveyard, it just keeps recurring over and over again, which is really cool. And then we play for the last 2 monsters, 2 copies of Nibiru. I do main deck the Nibirus because you can really OTK your opponent with something like your Tiger to just pop the token on your opponent's side of the field, or even something like your copy of Wolf. You can just punch through the token and then just be able to OTK your opponent. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Super Polymerization. Super Polymerization is just super good in this deck because you can go into stuff like Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. You can go into your copies of your Mud Dragon. You have so many different cards in the extra deck that you can just fusion summon out. It's really funny to play in mirror matches as well. Now, all of your Fluffal Frightfur monsters require Fluffal or Frightfur or Edgemp monsters to go into, but we do play Starving Venom and Mud Dragon in the extra deck, and we play the Verde Anaconda, so you can go into that as well. Then we play 3 copies of Call by the Grave. Call by the Grave just stops our opponent from hand trapping us. This is a primarily OTK based deck, so you're going to want to use this card so your opponent can't stop your plays, which is really important. We play a single copy of Frightfur Factory. Now, in the last profile, I believe I dropped this out, and now I realized, you know, this card's actually pretty good later in the game, because you can banish a polymerization spell from your graveyard or a fusion spell from your graveyard, and then you get to summon a Frightfur fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand to your side of the field as fusion material. And if it's sent to the graveyard, you can target a banish Frightfur fusion and add it to your hand. So it really helps you out if you don't have polymerization. You can just add this off of like an edge imp chain and then make more value out of your cards. Then we play a single copy for our fusion spell. Other fusion spells we're playing Frightfur Fusion as a one-of, because it's basically like Miracle Fusion. You use banish Frightfur cards from the graveyard and Fluffal monsters from the graveyard to fusion summon a Frightfur monster from your extra deck. We play 3 copies of Polymerization, because Polymerization is the bread and butter of fusion summoning in this deck. You're just fusion summoning out all of your Frightfur monsters with Polymerization or your Frightfur Fusion. We play 3 copies of Foolish Burial Goods. The Foolish Burial Goods is really good in this deck because it lets you send to graveyard your toy vendor to then search. So this card kind of thins the deck and searches a card off of its one effect. Then we play 3 copies of Frightfur Patchwork. Patchwork is really good because it lets you add an edge amp monster and a polymerization from your deck to your hand when you activate it. So this card is like the card that you always want to see in your starting hand because it's a +1 and it just starts all of your plays, and that's why we only play the single copy of Edge Imp Sabers, is because you can add it from deck to hand off of this and then immediately fusion summon because you have the polymerization and you're going to have a Fluffal in hand. So as long as you open this and a Fluffal, you're fine. And then we play 3 copies of Toy Vendor as well. Toy Vendor is really an interesting card that lets you discard a card to draw a card, and then if it was a Fluffal monster, you could special summon that monster. And if you don't, you have to discard it. And if this card is sent to the graveyard, you get to add an Edge Imp Sabers or a Fluffal from your deck to your hand, which is really good to be able to add those cards from deck to hand, so you can get all those additional value and additional plays off by searching like a copy of Dog or something like that. If you haven't drawn this turn, or if you haven't normal summon this turn, I usually summon Dog. Or if I want to get another copy of Toy Vendor on the field, I'll send Bear and then put a Toy Vendor on the field, which is really important for the deck. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing just a single copy of the Dangerous Frightfur Nightmare. This card is really, really good. If you guys don't know what this card does, it's one of the new cards that came out of Dual Overload, and basically what it does is it gains 300 attack for each fairy or fiend monster in your graveyard, and then during your turn only, when this card is fusion summoned, the card destroys a monster by battle, you can send Frightfur, Fluffal, and Edge Imp monsters from your deck to the graveyard, equal to the original level of destroyed monster, and then when your opponent activates a card or effect that targets this card on the field, quick effect, you can banish a Frightfur monster from your extra deck and negate the effect. This card gets really, really, really big with our Sabertooth and our Tiger on our side of the field. It does require an Edge Imp monster and 2 Fluffal monsters to go into, but we do have something in the main deck called Frightfur Fusion that lets us go into this card ridiculously easily, which is a really, really, really cool card. Then we play 2 copies of Sabertooth still. Sabertooth to me is just a 2-of all the way around. This card is so good. It takes a Frightfur fusion monster and 1 Fluffal or Edge Imp monster, and then when it's fusion summoned, you can target a Frightfur monster in your graveyard and special summon it, and all Frightfur monsters you control gain 400 attack. And if this card was fusion summoned using 3 or 4 more materials, it cannot be destroyed by battle or by card effects. This card is really good. It's got so much where you don't have to worry about it getting destroyed by battle or by card effects. It's just an overall really, really good card. We played 2 copies of the Frightfur Tiger. Frightfur Tiger, when it's fusion summoned, depending on how many materials you put into it, depends on how many cards on the field you get to destroy, which is insane. And it also makes all of your Frightfur monsters gain 300 attack for each Fluffal and Frightfur monster on your side of the field that you control, which is really good because once it's summoned out, it counts as a Frightfur monster, so you automatically gain 300 attack points, which is really cool. Usually you'll end with Sabertooth and Tiger on your side of the field, so they're both gaining an additional 1,000 attack points, which is really good. We play 2 copies of Kraken. I thought about dropping Kraken down to 1, but I feel like 2 is fine. Once per turn, you can target a monster your opponent controls. and then send it to the graveyard, and this card cannot attack directly the turn you activated this effect, and this card can make a second attack during each battle phase, and then once per turn at the end of the battle phase, if this card battled, you can change this card to defense position, which is not that big of a deal. I mean, it's really good to be able to switch to defense position, but it being able to attack twice is really nice, especially if you have like Sabretooth and Tiger in your side of the field, but this deck is definitely going to be probably a tier 2 deck once Master Rule 5 comes rolling around. One copy of Wolf. Wolf is the OTK maker of the entire deck. The really cool thing that combos with the Nightmare and the Wolf is that if you have your copy of Frightfur Fusion and you dump a whole bunch of monsters to the graveyard with your Dangerous Mary, you can just fusion summon, you can Frightfur Fusion into Wolf, and depending on how many materials you put into Wolf, which you just have to put an Edgem Sabers and then as many Fluffal monsters as you want into this, you can just instantly have a monster that can attack like 10, 12 times that has 2,000 attack points base stat, which is really, really, really good. One copy of Frightfur Sheep for the last Frightfur monster that we're playing in the extra deck. Frightfur Sheep, when it battles, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects, and if it's destroyed by battle, you just instantly special summon this card back, and it gains 800 attack as well, which is really, really cool. For the Super Poly targets, we're playing a single copy of Starving Venom Fusion Dragon in Mud Dragon of the Swamp, just to be able to go into some more additional plays. I do play number 60 because number 60 plus Wolf is really fun, because number 60 just brings Wolf up to 4,000 that can attack multiple times. Like, this deck has one of the highest ceilings for damage in the entire game, which is really cool. We play 2 copies of Cross Sheep as well because it's a fusion-based deck, and if you fusion summon something into one of the zones that Frightfur Sheep is on the side that has, you can special summon a level 4 lower monster from your graveyard, which is really cool. And then we play a single copy of Verte Anaconda. Verte Anaconda is really good because it lets us use fusion spells from our deck by targeting a face-up. And you can target cards on the field and make them dark, which is really cool because it makes it kind of get you out to have always access to that Super Poly, which is really, really nice. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. It's a really fun deck to play around with. I highly recommend that you guys give this deck a shot because it's just going to be, this deck is going to be really fun with Master Rule 5 being in force soon, and it's just a super cool, fun, cute deck. So definitely give Frightfurs and Fluffals a try, but I'll see you guys in the next video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can come part of our notification squad, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See you around, guys.